This is Valley View News.
2 suicide bombers have killed dozens in a Moscow subway attack.
I am confident that better days lie ahead.
President Obama paid a surprise visit to Afghanistan's leader. And smoking may soon be banned in California state parks and beaches.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Brett Teal.
And I'm Chelsea Pelton Brown.
In Moscow, at least 38 people were killed and many others injured after 2 female suicide bombers blew themselves up during rush hour. The 2 explosions occurred at Lubyanka Square and the Park Kulturi subway stations, locations that are filled with commuters at rush hour. The first strike came at around 8 in the morning at Lubyanka Square, and the second came about an hour later. Investigators say they have identified one of the bombers and have a lead on the other. The bombings come at a time when conflicts have intensified between the Russian government and rebels in largely Muslim republics. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev says the government has not done enough to bring stability to the volatile situation. Prime Minister Vladimir Putin says he's confident the group responsible for the attack will be caught. Some Russian officials are calling for a new security service in the Caucasus to reduce the violence. Officials in the government have speculated that the blast could have been an act of revenge. An Islamic rebel leader was killed earlier this month. Other rebel leaders say they are tired of the bloodshed in the Caucasus and have vowed to shift the violence to major Russian cities. Putin has ordered that families of the dead be paid 300,000 rubles, about $10,000. Valley View's Sean Weitzman lived and studied in Moscow last summer and traveled through the Park Kulturi station a number of times. Sean joins us here on the set. Sean, can you give us a sense of what the Russian subway is like at rush hour?
Yeah, but to really understand what it's like at rush hour, you have to understand that the metro or the subway is the main form of public transportation in Moscow and in other big cities in Russia as well. And millions of people travel on this public transportation every day. And when you're going in the subway, there's hundreds of people that push you in the car. When you're on the train, you're cramped. There's people standing next to you, breathing on you. You're in a tightly confined area, and there's really nowhere to go. So when there's a situation like this where there's a bomb going off, there's really nowhere to go, and it's incredibly dangerous.
What's the security typically like at these stations? Are they easy targets for terrorism?
Well, it's ironic that in the 1940s, the metro was used as a protective station against air raids during World War II, and right now there is light security at the metro. There's a guard at top where you put your ticket in, and there's also a guard at the bottom to monitor the walkways. And there's also occasionally police officers that walk around to see if people are drinking or causing fights, but there's really no screening. So when a terrorist group tries to do something like this in the metro, there's really little that can be done.
And how are people in Russia likely to see this attack?
Well, on top of just being a terrorism attack that is definitely going to strike fear into the Russian people, it's also an attack on national pride, really, because if you talk to many Russians, they'll tell you that the metro is a source of pride. There are beautiful structures inside, there's incredible artwork inside, there's many statues, and it's really something that they enjoy talking about, and they take pride in how successful it is at transporting people around the city, and it's relied upon very heavily. So not only are they going to be fearful of riding on the metro or subway later on, but they're also definitely going to take it to home because of what it means to them.
Thank you, Sean.
President Barack Obama made a surprise visit to Afghanistan this past Sunday to meet with President Hamid Karzai. The president landed at Bagram Air Base at night and was flown by helicopter to the presidential palace. Obama spoke with Karzai for 30 minutes about the Afghan leader's ability to run the country and provide security for its people. Obama then visited about 2,000 troops to give them some encouragement.
So long as there are folks like you, then I'm confident that our nation will endure and hope will overcome fear. And I am confident that better days lie ahead.
The president kept his visit short and returned from Afghanistan the following day.
Central Americans have taken a moment to celebrate the life of a man who gave hope in a time of crisis. Valley View's Jocelyn Bonilla is in the newsroom with more. Jocelyn?
The memory of Monsignor Romero lives strong within Salvadorians, including many who now live in Los Angeles. They were affected by the 12-year civil war in their homeland. Romero used the teachings of Christ for the betterment of the poor. This made him a target of the Salvadorian military. March 24, 1980. The day Monsignor Romero was assassinated. a day that made history in Central America and a day Salvadorians will never forget. Archbishop to the Catholic Church, Romero was shot and killed for speaking out against the brutal civil war in El Salvador. The commemoration took place at CSUN, which served as a refugee center for war victims in the 80s. Marvin Andrade says there is a close relationship between the two.
He was about peace. He was about communicating with the people. He was about bringing people together, and so that is the foundation of the organization.
It has been 30 years since the death of Monsignor Romero, who was killed by the Salvadoran military, yet he is still very much alive today in the hearts of many. Roberto Miranda migrated from El Salvador during the war.
Para mí significa una persona.
To me, he represents a person who gave it all for the poor, for his Salvadoran brethren, for those who didn't have a voice.
Romero's actions have not only influenced those of his time, but newer generations as well.
Through the classes we've had here at the university, it's become not only something national or Salvadoran, but it's become something transnational, which I believe is something very important to young people.
Even after his death, Romero lives. He is inspiration to those who face similar struggles. In Los Angeles, Jocelyn Bonilla for Valley View News.